guys, it's Julie Spencer, author of the Buxton Peak series. We are working our way through Buxton Peak, the early years. This is the prequel to my Buxton Peak series trilogy. I hope that you guys are liking the videos so far and that you'll subscribe to my channel and give the videos a thumbs up and like them and share them on social media so that other people can enjoy them as well. Okay. Buxton Peak, the early years, Chapter 8, Fish and Chips. Ian worried about Gary. It was 2 days before the American Music Awards, and they'd been ushered from one event to another. A nomination for New Artist of the Year was quite an honor, especially for young rock stars from the UK. Kai and Andy seemed to love the limelight. Ian was his usual confident self, but Gary kept retreating into a shell. Oh, great. More interviews. Gary stopped short in the doorway of the media room backstage. The open room was wall-to-wall tables, each hosting a different radio personality conducting live interviews with celebrities. It was expected for the guys to hop from one table to another all afternoon, talking to as many stations as possible. Television crews waited to pounce on stars at every turn. Magazine editorial writers, photographers, and devoted fans buzzed around, hoping to meet their favorite stars. It was overwhelming. Just let Ian do all the talking and you'll be fine. Kai patted Gary on the back and strutted past him to a beautiful blonde reporter waiting with a microphone. Why can't we just show up on the night of the performance and rock? Gary scowled. He stuck both hands in his pockets of his jeans. We don't need all this other crap. Good catch, Andy said. See, you're getting better at this public persona. We'll get to rock out on Sunday night. For now, let's just go meet some babes. Andy followed after Kai, leaving Gary and Ian standing by the door. Hey, I got something for you, pal. Ian pulled out an expensive pair of black shades and handed them to Gary. Hide behind these, stay by my side the whole day, and just act cool. I don't have to act cool. Gary slipped the shades on and immediately smirked at Ian. I am cool. See, now you get on just fine. Ian kept his gait at a reasonable pace so Gary could hover at his shoulder. Gary didn't say a word the whole afternoon. He grunted a few times, kept his hands in his pockets, and pretended to be aloof. And yes, he looked cool. Ian shook hands and answered questions. Kai and Andy mostly just flirted with the females in the room, young and old. The four guys posed for countless photographs, some individually with a girl or group of girls, some with all of them together in front of a backdrop for a radio station or magazine. Countless other celebrities came and went throughout the day, doing the same things the guys from Buxton Peak were doing. Most people seemed to know each other. None of them were as young as Buxton Peak. By the end of the afternoon, Gary seemed better, until they were away from the cameras. I need a drink. Gary pulled off his new shades and tucked them in his pocket. The ballroom down the hall from the media room was decked out with tables and buffets covered with a variety of finger foods. Gary made a straight line toward the cash bar. You have to be 21 to drink in America. Ian hurried to catch up with Gary. Kai and Andy trailed at his heels. Good thing I'm not an American. Gary reached across the bar and grabbed a frosted mug. While the bartender was distracted by a pretty redhead, Gary filled his mug with draft beer and sucked half the glass down before the bartender realized he had a customer. Dude, you're going to get me in trouble. The bartender hurried over to stand in front of the tap and glared at Gary. Gary pulled his wallet from his back pocket and slipped the bartender a $50 bill. Sorry about that, mate. I thought everything in this blessed country was free. It has been so far. Gary turned and walked away. That's not what I meant. The bartender regarded the 50 in his hand, rolled it between his fingers, and raised his eyebrows. Ian watched as Kai raised his right back at the guy. Andy leaned his arm against the bar, peeking over to see what was on tap. Got any Irish brew back there, pal? Andy opened his wallet, and the bartender almost seemed to be craning his neck to see how many bills sat within. Andy tisked as he pulled out 100. That's all I got. I guess I'm going to have to buy a glass for my mate as well. Kai, what would you like? Andy slid the bill across the bar, but he kept his eyes on Kai. I've been meaning to try a Budweiser, Kai said. I'll have a Killarney. Andy cocked his head at the young bartender. His eyes seemed to shift between their faces and the $100 bill, considering. Ian sighed. The cash disappeared and a frosted mug of Budweiser took its place. Within seconds, a glass bottle of Killarney sat beside the mug, the cap already twisted off and in the trash can. Kai and Andy lifted their drinks, clinked the glass in a toast to each other, and nodded to their new friend. "What can I get you?" The bartender sounded reluctant. "I'll just have a Coke," Ian said. "Designated driver?" Ian turned his head, expecting to see someone standing behind him. "Me? I don't drive." "You're not going to let one of those guys drive, are you?" the bartender asked. "They don't know how to drive either." "How young are you guys?" the bartender asked through gritted teeth. His face was turning red and his breathing sped up. Ian gulped. 18? We don't drive because there's a limousine waiting outside everywhere we go, so there's really no need. You're legal in the UK, right? I'm in enough trouble already if anyone finds out I served them. 1. Anyone in this ballroom who doesn't know who we are or how old we are must only listen to rap music. Ian shook his head and scoffed. How can this guy not know us? We're headlining at the awards show. We've been on every commercial leading up to this weekend. Our faces are plastered all over this hotel. Whatever. 2, you're the only person serving at a cash bar in the entire room. Where else would they have gotten the beer? Ian closed his eyes and pinched the bridge of his nose. How am I supposed to keep my mates out of trouble if people give them alcohol everywhere we go? Anyway, thanks for the Coke. Ian turned and scanned the room, hoping to find the guys somewhere close. Kai and Andy were nowhere to be seen, but Gary was at a corner table, his feet propped up on the chair beside him, lounging with his shades back on his face and less than a quarter of his beer left. Without a word, Ian set his Coke on the opposite side of the table and meandered through the mingling crowd of celebrities to the buffet table of appetizers. He scooped up several delicacies onto a little plate and grabbed a napkin on his way back. Eat something, Ian told Gary. We don't need you hurling all night because you drank too much beer on an empty stomach. That looks disgusting. Gary leaned forward and picked up a little piece of toast with caviar on top. Americans eat strange foods. Caviar is Italian, Ian said, and it's really good. Ian swiped the toast from Gary's hand and popped it into his own mouth. He turned the plate around and pointed, indicating Gary should choose something else. What is this green stuff? Gary wrinkled his nose. It's spinach artichoke dip. You scoop it up on the bread and eat it. You're not trying to keep me from hurling. You're trying to encourage it. Gary pushed the plate away. Here, just eat the bread, okay? Ian picked the little pieces of bread off the plate and placed them in a pile on the tablecloth in front of Gary. He mumbled, It's like trying to feed a baby. Gary grabbed a few pieces of bread from the pile and tossed them into his mouth like popcorn. Ian decided they were going to need more bread. Ma'am? Ian stopped a waitress as she walked by with a tray of champagne flutes. Would you please bring us a nice bread basket? Of course, Mr. Taylor. I'll be right with you. Mr. Taylor? How old do I look? He thought. At least she knows who I am, unlike our bartender. Ian wanted this night to be over. He was tired of babysitting drunk teenagers. He didn't even know where the other 2 guys were, probably off with some girls. Ian wanted this whole weekend to be over. He wanted to jam during practice the following day, smile for the cameras on the red carpet Sunday afternoon, and rock out on stage for the first time at an awards show. Then he wanted to get back out on tour. Their second CD was about to be released and their next European tour was already scheduled. The guys needed a routine and a tour mom. Sitting around at fancy parties drinking alcohol was not good. This isn't the lifestyle I want to lead. Where did that come from? Ian almost felt as if the thought came from outside his body, as if someone had whispered in his ear. Every word of it was true, though. He wanted to play music, to write, to perform, to live and breathe and feel music. All the rest of this was pageantry. Ian picked up a little chicken wing covered in some sort of sweet-smelling barbecue sauce and cringed. How is it that Americans manage to douse everything in sugar, even chicken? Gross! He dropped it back on the plate. I'm telling you, Americans are weird. Gary's words slurred together. As soon as we get some food in you, we're going back up to our suite. We got rehearsals in the morning. Thank goodness, Gary said. I just want to rock. At least we still agree on something. Ian clinked his glass of Coke with Gary's mug of beer, and they sighed with relief when the bread basket arrived. They both wrinkled their noses after the first bite. Even the bread tastes like sugar. What are the chances of getting a decent plate of fish and chips? Gary asked. Pretty slim. Ian pushed away from the table and stood. Let's go upstairs and order a pizza from room service. Sounds good to me. Gary downed the rest of his beer as he stood from the table, staggered a little, and belched. He snickered and glanced side to side. Hope nobody heard that. Guess the beer wasn't such a good idea. My thoughts exactly. Let's go get some pizza. Ian guided Gary from the room and down the hall. They didn't see Andy and Kai until rehearsals the following day. Monday morning, they slept on the plane all the way back to England with some nifty trophies in their suitcases. Before heading north out of London, they took a detour to Poppy's Fish and Chips. It was good to be home. Okay, that's the end of the chapter. Hope you're liking the video so far. If you will give them a like, thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel and share my videos on social media, I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you for the next video.